Hey folks, welcome back to Kick 'em All Out. Got a little something here I just couldn't hardly wait to show you. But y'all probably seen this maybe on some social media, or possibly if you watch MSNBC, you probably saw it. I don't know who the MSNBC anchor is that's doing this. I'm not really sure what her name is, but the other person on the video is the Secretary of Commerce under this administration anyway, but it's some of the most clueless two people I've ever seen in my life. So anyway, just wanted to share it with you. We're going to get right at it.
Secretary, the White House has made its goal very clear. They want this country vaccinated, and they're not forcing people to do it. Now, I've called these mandates a workaround, which is not a negative term. It is a way to achieve a goal without violating anything, without forcing anything on anyone, a way to get a huge amount of people vaccinated legally. How do you see this?
Good morning. First of all, it's great to see you. I see this as a huge step forward to getting people back to work and finally recovering, having this economy recover. It takes the guesswork out. It is probably the most quickest, easiest, cheapest thing that we could do to get Americans back to work. You know, getting vaccinated is cheap, it's free, it's effective, and it is the single biggest thing that is holding back our economy right now. So I'm proud of the president for doing it, and many businesses are lauding the decision. And I think that we're going to see a big impact, a positive impact in our economy on account of this decision.
I'm puzzled by these people who continue to say they're forced to get vaccinated here. There's always been a choice. If you do not want to get vaccinated, you can work from home. You can homeschool your children. You can shop online. So where is this coming from? People saying, I'm now being forced to be vaccinated. We never forced vaccinations on kids in school. If you didn't want to vaccinate your kids, you could homeschool them. And people have done it for years.
You're exactly right. Nobody is being forced. In fact, if you don't get vaccinated, you just have to get tested on a weekly basis. But the reality is the science is crystal clear on this. Get vaccinated. These vaccines are incredibly effective. They're effective, they are free, they work, and it's unacceptable. It is unacceptable now that people aren't getting vaccinated. We need our kids in schools. We need the schools open. We need people to get back to work. We need people flying on airplanes. We need people in restaurants. We have too many Americans still out of work, and this is a simple, effective shot in the arm, if you will, that our economy needs. And there's no reason not to get vaccinated at this point in time. That being said, you're not being forced. You can work from home. You can get tested on a weekly basis. So I just think this is just smart public policy and great leadership by the president.
Boy, it's hard to take a whole lot of that. I couldn't go much further. They keep going on for about another 6 minutes, I believe it is, talking about all kinds of different things. But first thing is, the Secretary of Commerce, she's not a doctor. That's not the background she comes from. As far as her being so adamant about the jab and everything, providing information on that, on how well it is, and this, that, and the other. I'm find it hard to believe that she should be able to speak about that. And I guess from her perspective of what it's going to do to the jobs and all this, that, and other, she talks about all that stuff. But the anchor for MSNBC there, she just I don't know where she's coming from as far as saying nobody's been forced or whatever. Well, all the federal and government employees are being forced. There's no doubt about that, or they won't have a job. All the medical workers are being forced, or they're not going to have a job. We're getting ready to lose about 400,000 is what the estimate is across this whole country, in a situation where we're already short on nurses, and the ones that are working now are working so many hours it's wearing them out. And all you ever hear on the TV or whatever, media, whatever, is that the reason for that is all the patients they're having to look after, because all of the unvaccinated people that are going to the hospital and stuff. But really, before you ever had that, we already had a shortage. So I'm not sure how we're all going to get our health care taken care of if all these nurses across the country, and the word is that 75% that have already taken the jab, are about the only ones that are going to get it. There may be some percentage more that do it, but they say there's a pretty hard 25% out there that just absolutely are not going to do this thing. And I believe it's their choice or whatever. But what I'm trying to get to is a bigger picture. All of these people, I don't know how they're going to work from home if they work at jobs where you have to be at your job to work and you have to do your stuff there, whatever it might be, whether it's a factory or a grocery store or whatever it might be, or anything that's got over 100 people there that are going to be made to do this, and still be able to feed their families. And our Secretary of Commerce is not worried about it because for some reason she's delusional that it's not going to affect the economy and that people aren't going to have money to spend and they're going to start losing their cars, their houses, whatever, wanting to downsize in a housing market that you can't even afford to buy the houses that are out there right now because the housing market is so high. It's kind of hard to downsize, so it kind of goes along with the plan that they've always had to get people out of ownership and get them into rental. Of course, your rental prices are sky high too, so you can't hardly afford to do that. But maybe if you sell your house, you'll have some money to live off of for a while out of the sale of your property. And maybe that's the way we'll have to go. So we use up all of our equity, whoever it might be that needs to get some more cash, so they'll have to sell their house, and we'll have less ownership. And unbeknownst to most of the public, a lot of venture capitalist firms and these big companies that are being looked after by big money management companies and venture capitalists and all that stuff, they're buying up big swaths of all the houses that are out there, holding on to them for future so they can use them in their portfolios for rentals. So they're trying to get it where all the young people coming through now and the future generation, they're going to get used to not ever owning anything, and they're going to get used to just renting and paying all the rent to the man, while all the big venture capitalists and everything own all the property or as much as they can get their hands on in the country. So it's really stupid. It leads to a whole lot that they're just being ignoring, or they're being untruthful about how it will affect everything. And I'll tell you how the pick that he made for this particular job to make her Secretary of Commerce in this administration, who she is and what she actually does. She went to Yale Law School, but she actually got a bachelorette degree in economics or whatever, and then she served under a judge doing some I guess as a federal judge or whatever. And anyway, she ended up becoming the governor of Rhode Island, one of the few female governors in the country or whatever. But she as she went through her governorship, she actually got reelected for her second term. And it's really crazy because what was strange about it was the fact that she had one of the lowest ratings of all the governors from the time she started until 2019, but she still got reelected in like 2018 or something like that, even though she had one of the lowest ratings in the country of all governors. But anyway, she actually worked with a venture capitalist firm. She went back to Rhode Island and started her own venture capital firm there. I'm sure that that's even becoming governor, that gave her more insider information on whatever's going on in that type of business. And she worked for Bain Capital and Highland Capital Groups whenever she was in I guess it was like the Manhattan Village Ventures or whatever, fund development or whatever. She was like acting the senior vice president or whatever. But anyway, that's not even really the important stuff, but that's background of what she actually, where she come from and what she did. So, but what I wanted to get to was she had a huge, big mistake. They were trying to implement a digital system for the it was called United Health Infrastructure Project. It was for I guess covering several agencies that look after all kinds of stuff, such as food stamps, and a lot of them were, most of them were government programs, food stamps, child care, and some other stuff too, Medicaid and all that. And she'd been warned by the government that it wasn't ready, the federal government, that it wasn't ready to be launched, but she decided, plus other advisors and people in the agencies, that all their stuff was going to be thrown into this electronic digital program to be managed, and you would think hopefully the plan would be to make it better and more efficient, get rid of some of the the fat or whatever. And a group that does the part of the management of the different systems in the state of Rhode Island. She was they wrote a letter to her, this ain't ready, you need to work on it just a part at a time, and roll out a pilot program, and then roll the other different aspects of it in at a time. But she decided on her own, nope, I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway, hit the button, got it started and all that. And immediately, whenever they kicked it in, to take over all these different programs and systems all these people were on, they had like 5,500 people that, just because of like an upgrade to the system as they were trying to get it online, kicked out 5,500 people that were on Medicaid. And it left them with no option to be able to go out there and fight it and take their case to court, or whatever. And of course it takes time to for them, since they have no options of trying to get it straightened out. There was no mechanism for that, so they had they got to try to go get on the government insurance program or whatever, because Medicaid is for people below 65 that maybe are not able to work or whatever. And and a lot of people, and maybe even most of them, on Medicaid are very, very, very low income people, and there's a threshold there. You can only get on Medicaid if you make less than like $12,000 a year or something like that. Anything above that, you got to go into the Obamacare plan, and sign up for that stuff anyway. But it was a friggin' disaster, and they couldn't never get the bug straightened out. A lot of people lost their food stamps and stuff like that, and they were like behind by 20,000 cases backlogged, trying to figure out how to get it all straightened out. It was just like I say, it was a cluster. And one of the things that that she also controlled was the Rhode Island Department of Children and Youth and Families, and they had a high rate of deaths and near deaths of children that was in its care. Evidently, it's like how their state manages children that are out of the home, or maybe they've been taken from their parents, or for whatever reasons. Anyway, they get them, and a lot of them were in government facilities or whatever too. So they expanded the foster care system to get it from like 200 and something foster care families in the system to like 576 or something like that. But they had like between January of 2016 and December of 2017, they had 31 fatalities or near fatalities of children that was in its care, with 8 being confirmed fatal. And for whatever reason, they can't even figure out if the whole total of 31, just like government agencies do, were actually fatalities at the same time. But she put in a new director or whatever for this operation in January 2017 for the kids and all that stuff. And the deaths just continued, and near deaths of children. They had very high staff turnover, no confidence votes, high budget deficits, and the girl that Governor Raimondo appointed, she resigned in July of 2019 just because of all the stuff that was going on and no way to get it fixed, no infrastructure on the back end to handle problems, not having enough people involved in it. But in 2018, October, the United States Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families ordered Raimondo's administration to improve in 33 of the 36 areas that was in that particular program. And they said that the services were inadequate, not developed when needed, and lacked consistent monitoring. And then a Harvard Kennedy School professor and former Obama administration official, Jerry Liebman, agreed with recommendations and analysis of the report for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and claimed that the DCYF, which was her thing, was the most messed up agency ever. So that was some of the stuff that she was going through anyway, but they gave her like 1 month to get that stuff straightened out, and then it was, I don't know about the follow-up or how they did, but it was still in bad shape whenever she decided to resign as governor, because she had been asked to join the campaign of Michael Bloomberg that was running, in the primary for the Democratic nomination, and she was just tickled to death to go do that. So she decided she would go do that, and he made her like the campaign co-chair, and she was supposed to provide advice and then help with events and stuff like that. And because Bloomberg didn't ever even get a percent, I don't even think, he bowed out within a month or whatever, and then he endorsed Biden, of course, and then she came up and put out a statement that Bloomberg obviously performed poorly in the debate stage, but supporting his candidacy was an easy decision for me in the beginning. But now she's supporting. But when his campaign stopped, she started supporting Joe Biden. She said that was an easy decision too, and concluded that it was now time to unify behind Joe Biden. Anyway, she got in a big kerfuffle with Andrew Cuomo in New York because she put some kind of thing out. I guess it's probably because a lot of people that work in New York or whatever was during the pandemic was living in Rhode Island or whatever, and she specifically put a law or whatever together to that stated specifically that people that came from New York, if they left New York and came into Rhode Island, no matter who it was, they had to quarantine for 14 days. And I guess if you're a worker in New York and you're going back and forth, you can't really have a job and quarantine for 14 days. So how much sense that made, I don't know. But I think they she finally changed it. She didn't give in though. She just changed it to take New York specific off the order that she had, and put any out-of-state travelers had to quarantine for 14 days if they came to Rhode Island. So I reckon that pretty much about locked everything down. But it's just kind of interesting that she's a Secretary of Commerce. She's talking about that the jab is so great, and it's all of this, that, and the other, which we can't seem to find out ourselves. They tell us that, but nobody comes on and gives us the proof, and we can't get our hands on the numbers and this, that, and other. But like I say, my whole point is, the thing about working from home and this, that, and other, because nobody's being forced. Nobody, no, you got it wrong. Nobody's being forced to do anything here. You're just not going to be able to have a paycheck. My particular viewpoint is it's exactly backwards from what they're talking about, because there should never be a way that anybody should be forced, because first and foremost is your freedom and your liberty to do anything you want to in this country. Now, I mean, if the company's a private company and it's not the government, for sure, it's just like, a business, a restaurant that wants you to wear a mask at the door coming in. You're going to have to do it, or you're going to go somewhere else to eat. So the businesses can do that, but the problem is any businesses over 100 people, the federal government is going to either fine them or they're going to do something to them if they don't put this into effect. So it leaves no option for them, whatever amount of time you got, to force you to give up your freedom and your liberty to be able to have a job. Whenever I see it the other way around, nobody should be forced to do it. And if that's the case, and we do have a constitution, and you shouldn't be forced to do anything in this country that you don't want to do, and you should not, the people that got the jab should be the ones to have to make the decision, because I have the right to have my job and to go out and do what I need to do to support my family. They need to be the ones to make the decision whether they want to work with me or not work with me, because they're doing something that they've done something that they think they ought to do. So by making that decision, if they don't want to work with people that have not had the jab, then they should be the ones either working from home or doing whatever, instead of taking 80 to 100 million, which is a third or a quarter, 80 million being a quarter of the population. You're talking about, that's half, 80 million is half of the workforce, because we don't have but about 150 to 60 million people actually working in this country right now. So you're going to take, we're already short on help everywhere. You're going to take the another half of everybody that's working in this country out of the workforce. So tell me what's going to be operating out there. Are the grocery stores, are they looking at this like, well, we only have 98 people working at the local, whatever your local grocery store is or whatever, but are they is the government going to look at it, well, your corporation has, 2,000 stores or whatever across the country, so you definitely employ over 100, or is it going to go location by location, like your big box stores, like your Walmarts and this, that, and others? Is it going to be per store, which, probably most Walmarts have over 100 employees? And how is our country going to operate? And for this lady to sit there and say that she don't see how it will affect the economy or whatever. No, I'm not concerned about that at all, not in the least. That's why I'm smiling, because I know that this is the best thing, and people should come around. And our president has, he's made a very, very good decision. He's made a very good decision. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. From a constitutional and an American standpoint. And what our rights are, just like I was talking to a friend yesterday, exactly this thing, not even having seen this particular video or whatever, but when I saw it, I was like, that's exactly what we were talking about, where, the thought of liberty and everybody worried about safety first. And not saying that we shouldn't do all the things we need to do to be safe and, protect ourselves and other people. But in our Constitution, your personal liberty is first. If you give up liberty for safety, you're not going to have either one of them, because what you're doing is you're giving the government all the rights and more power to do the next thing. If you can't see how fast this is progressing, where the government is taking away one thing after another and controlling one thing after another, they're already operating outside of their bounds and over their enumerated powers anyway, that we, the people, or our ancestors, the founders of this country that initially wrote the Constitution of the United States of America, but all the power goes to the states because we're sovereign states. We're just a collection of states that formed this union, and we gave the federal government, and you can go through the Constitution and you can find out about the 15 to 20 things that they actually have power to control. Most laws on the books, most federal agencies, education, environmental, all that stuff is completely against, and I know all the scholars out there, because we have lots of scholars in this country that, well, whenever this was being written, they weren't thinking about this, that, and the other. There's no way in the world you can convince me that the states can't control their own education. They can't look after their own environment according to the will of the people in that state. There's very few agencies that the government runs and the money that they spend is even constitutional, and you have judges that will not stand up to it and that won't agree with you because of some act they passed that was not constitutional, that says now they have the right to do that, or some maybe amendment to our Constitution that it was never brought to the people. There was never a convention of states, which I don't even like the idea of that, because that's another way they get in the back door to try to get all kinds of stuff in. There's so many aspects to this where the power of the people, the only thing that the government has a responsibility for in this country, whether it be the state government or the federal government, is to preserve your rights. That's the only thing they have control over, that they're supposed to do, and that's their number one job. And if anybody out there can tell me that they believe the government is protecting their rights at any point in time where we're at today, all started back in the early 1920s, whenever they started giving themselves power that they were not supposed to have, and it's all unconstitutional, and the government needs to be stripped down to the ground. All those agencies need to be brought back to the states. The Constitution clearly says these are the only powers that the federal government has, and you can look them up. I'm not going to try to recite them to you, but it's only to look after our safety and security, to handle foreign commerce, and only just another one or two things they're supposed to do, and report on where they spend all of their money. And they've never even had a budget until like 1921, because everything was from tariffs or duty taxes or whatever for stuff coming into this country. And that was enough money, because we used to, instead of making trade deals, we used to barter. And if somebody had a cheap product to sell it over here, we just charged them a bunch of money to be able to sell it here, because more than likely, and the same way it is today with China, because if you go through your house right now, flip everything over, look at the bottom, made in China. Flip this over, look at the bottom, made in China. Because they were using slave labor and making stuff and just supporting all these socialist and communist regimes all over the world. And that was something that supposedly our belief system in this country does not allow for. So anyway, I'm gonna cut it off at that, and appreciate you watching this. If you don't mind, subscribe and like my videos. Share it if you will with your friends or whatever. Trying to bring some truth to you. I know I haven't always understood everything, because I've been working all my life, and I use that excuse the same, trying to figure out all this stuff, and try to know a little bit more about the Constitution and some other aspects of what's going on. But it's very important, because your children are not being taught any of this, and they are being brought through because they want them to not know any of this stuff, none of our history, all of that stuff, just so they can continue to get more power. And they're going to try to increase that power at every turn, and we're going to see a lot of that is coming hard and fast if the people that love this country don't stand up and put a stop to all this. There's no more money. There's no more money out there. There's nobody going to buy any more bonds or anything from anywhere around the country or around the world to support all this money they're printing. It's just being, all those notes and bonds and whatever they're getting is just being held by the Federal Reserve, which is a whole nother class that could probably, you could do 10 seminars on, people just trying to, the people that don't even have a clue of, what the Federal Reserve actually does, how it works, and who's actually getting the cash that they're printing up there, because we're having to borrow it from somebody. So it's just the craziest thing in the world. We should have never had that, because that started around the beginning of the 20th century, and has completely ruined this country. We need to shut it down, do away with it. Don't never ever have anything to do with a Federal Reserve again. So anyway, not constitutional. It's not constitutional. Should have never happened. Anyway, I love all of y'all. Like I say, if you will, just help me get the message out there. You know, I'm just trying to educate some folks. I know there's a lot of people out there trying to educate them, but I always suggest get out there, you know, get on the computer, try to find what's right and wrong. I mean, there's some people out there putting stuff out there, so you can still do your research. You can definitely get a copy of the Constitution of the United States and a copy of the Constitution for the state that you live in, and read it and see what it says. And you will be completely shocked of how far off the rails we are right now. Anyway, y'all have a good evening, and we'll talk to you later.